Hello, this is Ronja with Me. Welcome to Key 5 of the 7 Keys to Happiness. So, we have talked about mindfulness, joy, and singing. And what else have we talked about? Gratitude, exactly. And I'm so grateful that you're still with this series and are getting valuable information out of it and little tips on how to attain happiness, maintain happiness, deal with challenges, and change your vibration to something more positive. Especially useful at this moment in time where we might have a little more time with different challenges because we're locked inside our houses and cannot do as much as you would like to do. With all the activities that we used to do outside, now we might be better able to take a few minutes away from our work at home in our home office, actually take me time every hour for just 1 minute to breathe, to be grateful or be mindful, and so on. So today I was thinking about talking about forgiveness. Forgiveness is always a very important topic. There are plenty of things that annoy us that we can get angry about. For instance, even the current situation with the pandemic, which causes a lot of fear, anxiety, worry. Who's to blame? Human nature very easily looks for somebody to blame. We want a target for our wrath. But what I've learned in my career as a life coach, as a healer, is that anger and resentment usually has a deeper issue. We are usually hurt. We are hurt about something. We are fearful of something. In this case, we are hurt by the mere idea of losing loved ones to a virus. And that's why we get angry. Anger is a defense mechanism because we feel vulnerable. There's nothing wrong with that, and I'm not going to talk about anger. I would like to talk about forgiveness, though. It is important to forgive situations. We'll talk about that in the post on surrender, which will be coming up as well. It is important to forgive people, and it's important to forgive one person in particular, namely yourself. I talk about that in detail in my forgiveness courses, of course, but today I just wanted to remind you that it is really, really important to consider where your anger might be coming from and what you can do about it. So let's just start with something simple. Any kind of little annoying situation. Remember that whatever vibration we put out, we usually attract. So if we see something that angers us, that annoys us, gets on our nerves, then we feed that energy. However, very often, even though we tell ourselves, okay, just think of something else, focus on something positive, look, a tree. It is so hard to do. And then we get angry at ourselves, and then there's something else to forgive. So what's the best way to actually practice forgiveness? One of them is to surrender, which again, we'll talk about another time. But just to remember that it is okay to forgive, because by forgiving, you do not condone the action of another person who did wrong. You do not necessarily condone a particular situation, but you release yourself from the tethers that keep you bound to your anger, to your lower vibrations, to your lower emotions. So one thing that I do in my forgiveness workshops is teach people to either write on a piece of paper or into a journal, I forgive XYZ, and that over and over again, and just feel what emotions come up and just let those out safely. If you get really, really angry and then, hack the table to bits, it's not going to be very productive or helpful, and other people might not appreciate that. And then they'll have to forgive you, and, that's an vicious cycle. So do it in a healthy way. What I mean by that is if you feel anger, breathe it out. Admit to the anger, accept it, and then breathe it out. be with it. If you read the book by Hawkins about surrender, it tells you all about how to just sit with an emotion long enough for it to dissipate. And you can imagine it like a bubble of energy of a particular color or consistency, for instance, that represents one particular shade of emotion, and there's so many out there, right? And you just sit with it, and by sitting with it, it just becomes larger and larger, but it also becomes less dense. And at some point, it'll grow and grow and grow and grow and grow, like any gaseous bubble, and just dissipate and disappear completely. And by disappear, I mean it'll change into something more positive, more neutral. You can do that with any kind of emotion, really. So another way to practice forgiveness is not, just writing "I forgive X, Y, Z," but also to just breathe it out. Breathe out the emotion with the intent: I forgive this. I release my anger, and I inhale the opposite of anger. In that case, it might be peace, it might be love. There are no set opposites in these exercises. Do it via breathing. If you have a hard time even writing that "I forgive" or thinking that with an intention "I forgive," you can just slightly change that phrase, either just in your thoughts or also on paper, and say, "I ask the divine for help to forgive me with this challenge, to forgive me with this person, to forgive that person, to forgive that institution," whatever it might be that angers you, annoys you. Because by calling on something like the divine, and you can interchange that with anything you want, if you believe in God, the concept, then use God. If you believe in angels, use angels. The point is to call upon a higher power, something that is stronger in this case than you are. Because if you want to do something that you cannot do, there's no reason not to ask for help. Ask for help. There's a whole heavenly entourage out there that's happy to assist you. All we need to do is ask, because that is what free will is all about. So, again, what you can do is sit and write, "I ask the divine to help me release my anger about this particular situation and forgive." It is very close to the Ho'oponopono forgiveness ritual from Hawaii, where you also add that you love a particular person, you ask them for forgiveness, you tell them you love them, and there are a couple of more steps involved, but some people cannot actually do the love part. That's why I don't necessarily teach it in everything that I teach. It also kind of depends on which client I work with. But love obviously is at the basis of all of that. We forgive because even though we don't want to admit to the fact that it would be beneficial to love the other person regardless, because in the end everything is one. We are all one in unity, in spirit. But it is important to learn to love ourselves, and we cannot love ourselves when we are angry. We cannot love ourselves when we cannot forgive a particular person and feel guilty about that. So it all boils down to love in the end, but that is not what we necessarily need to focus on, especially when the forgiveness exercise is just something that we just want to, dip our toes into, because it does help our happiness. If you are resentful a lot of the time, you grow bitter. Who doesn't know a person who is bitter? They usually have a lot of resentment, unresolved hurt, anger. So we can practice with little things, like if you walk through town, if you're allowed to walk through town, and something annoys you, just take a deep breath, say, "I forgive this." You don't have to condone it, but you can forgive that. And just having that intention of forgiveness can shift a lot of things. And just see what it does. Practice it with little things until you can do bigger things if you want to. If you ever need help with that, you can always reach out to me. As I said, I do teach forgiveness workshops. But just notice how forgiving on a more regular basis, accepting and forgiving of others and of ourselves and of situations can really, really shift you into a state of more contentment and a state of more happiness. And this is really what life is about, to try and be happy as best we can, no matter what is really going on, because happiness comes from the inside out, and forgiveness is a big part of that. So good luck with this, and I'll see you tomorrow with the next key. Take care.